Well, stencils, love them or leave them. Oftentimes you do leave them. But, you know, what if you can repurpose them? Hi everyone, welcome to my Shoreline studio. I'm Sybille Muschik. Behind the camera is Joshua Blanc. Now today we're looking at more border treatments and stencils. And I have been brainstorming stencils. Here's one of the Naniki ones, and we've been using this in a different way. So a nice way to repurpose your stencils. Anyway, just to show you how I've done that, because obviously I have one ready already. So this is a 1-inch border, and you just place your stencils in a good spot and center it. Then, as a drawing aid, you just draw in the stencil on foam, a little bit of craft foam, and then you just keep going, lining everything up. And often your borders should be simple. Don't get carried away with a lot of design because it's not really what you want. So you end up with a nice drawing, and it's all, you know, symmetrical, which often you know, borders need to be. So then you can just impress your design into the foam. Deep enough so that when you ink it, it will be visible. And so on. Okay, so I've got this one done already, as I said, and I have used it. Now, just remember that gel plate printing is one of those things that is not perfect. There's always a little wobble of some kind, maybe a piece of ink that's a little bit too heavy or too light, or something that didn't quite print. And that's the charm of it. It's not like any other medium, and that's why it's endlessly fascinating and experimental. So just to show you a few of my experiments, and an awful lot of them didn't work out, but it's worth trying. So here's an early one, and you can enhance. The whole point of some of these things is that your final product isn't just off the plate. You can do other things with Posca pen. This is Posca pen and gold pen, and it looks very medieval. So again, a simple design that can be very effective. And I haven't put, you know, a central image here. It could be anything. A still life would be nice, or bird studies, things of that nature. Here's another one. Here the pattern is a little bit more obscure. It's there, but much more subtle. And again, maybe here you could do some botanicals. You know, it's all fair game. Here's a rainbow roll, and it's picking up the different colors. And you see what I mean about, you know, there's some areas that are not perfect, but instantly you'll recognize this as a gel plate print, as a monotype. So again, I would maybe do an inner border with gold or some other color, and who knows, enhancing maybe some of the little designs. Here's another one. And this one, the design is very consistent. I'm not sure you need to do anything more with it. Maybe some glass work in there. or a quiet sunset. Who knows? Well, our sunset's quiet sometimes. So as you see, I've worked with this in a bit, so I'm just going to shore up the design a little bit, just in case it's not quite as crisp as we want. This is craft foam that's just from the dollar store, so a really handy material that's very reasonable to work with. And you can be creative at the corners and do little things because you're repeating the pattern and it's broken up a little bit because the stencil is shorter than our border. Now I did try some intaglio with this where the lines are dark, and it really was a superb failure. And not everything works. You try your best and keep working at it, and so far I haven't managed it. I may in the future, but it's more pain than it's worth. But then we have other videos where our intaglio did work very well, so that was with the Tetra Paks. I guess Josh can post that one so that you can follow that. That one was really successful. Okay. And it's working with a different material. This is, quite a sloppy material. I started off actually with single pieces, putting them down, and you can certainly work that way. It makes you have a nice breaks for the corners. But the trick is to put some medium, or I was using retarder, and because this is sort of floppy on here, it goes all over the place and doesn't really stick unless you have ink on it. So if you wet it down, and like with retarder, then these individual pieces will stick very well and you don't have to fiddle around with them as much. So that's a good trick if you do it that way. But today we're doing it with the whole thing. And we're going to start just with our background, something like this. Hopefully it will work out. So since we're not doing any center treatments, it's just putting color in the center is kind of nice, not so stark. And then it can also inform your pattern, because then the pattern itself is a different color than further up. So you don't need much red, otherwise it'll be... And you must keep this lighter, because otherwise your pattern doesn't show. So that's another trick. Right. So here we go. Now you can add retarder to this if you like. If you work fast, you don't need to, but... Our Amsterdam paints, as you know, dry very quickly. It's a very intense color. And, watch on your packaging labels that, your reds are archival if you intend to show your work, because and there's a listing and numbers. Usually it tells you how the numbers go, that 4 is usually the most durable, and maybe 1 might be fugitive. That's what they call it when the color doesn't last very long. That often happens to reproductions. Some of these so-called limited edition prints, where they go through a printing process, and an offset printing house would print them out, but their colors are not archival to any great degree, and unless they go to extra pains. And so your supposedly valuable reproduction ends up having a lifespan of about 10 years. So you don't want to go there. Okay, so a fairly solid paper, cardstock is good. And take your time rubbing this, make sure you have a good contact. You don't want those little white spots if you can help it. I mean, they are sort of fixable, but it never looks quite right. Peek. Okay, just at the bottom here. A little extra care, and you get a better result. Okay, that looks good so far. And whatever's floating around in the room ends up on sticking to your gel plate. You see what I mean about those dastardly little white spots? We're going to be covering that up with our pattern anyway. Okay, so not a bad result. So I have a little roller. Okay, a little bit of retarder. Because you're rolling it out and it dries so quickly that retarder is a must. And a little bit of our red, just to coordinate with the base. And I'm going to add a little touch of this. Like I told you before, I'm not terribly fond of these lids. And this is a fluorescent paint. Okay, so I've added some paint here, the fluorescent pink and a little bit of red to the black. All that black does in this case is just bring it down a touch. If you mix more than one different color, it's sort of gray and muddy looking, so stay in the same color range, you're fine with black. It just darkens it. Oil painters darken their colors with black all the time. You just pretty well have to roll it. And using a smaller roller is less messy. Now some of the design might be covered up so you get a slight bit of intaglio result, but it's not really what we're looking for in this case. And it's a different process, and sometimes you just can't bully your way into what the medium won't like to do. You can try, and you can end up with hours of frustration, and then maybe you have a good result, but I think in that case you should either go to a wood cut or a lino block cut, and then ink it properly with tarlatan. You know, wipe it with tarlatan and get all the paint into the grooves. But we're working with a different kind of format here. And it just stubbornly refuses to do that process, so that's fine. We'll use it the way we want it to. Now roll it so it's nice and even. Now here comes the tricky part, because it's a bit on the floppy side. And try and line it up so that on one side. Okay, I think we lucked out. And just for ease, getting that pattern onto the gel plate. Another sheet of paper is good. Use your Baron if you have one, or your hands. You could use a wooden spoon, which I'll show you. And that will really get the pattern down. When you cut these out, obviously you have that center piece. You could put that down just to, if you're using, say, the half or the singular, then you're best off to put that center piece on first. I've done that too, and I mark the back of the plate to show where that goes to begin with. Or when you cut it out, put all the pieces together on your plate, and then you can lift the center out or leave it behind, whatever part of it you're working. Okay, now have we done enough? You can peek to see if the pattern's left behind. Yes. Looking good so far. Right. Just keep that out of harm's way. And then I just lined it up with the top edge there, and then you can crop the pieces as I did when I showed you earlier. I had cropped those. Now, here's where a muscle, lots of muscle is required. And again, peek to make sure that everything has inked and that you get a good result. I think it's picked it up pretty well. There we go. So again, you just crop, and you can't do it on a cutter. You'll have to do it with a ruler because it's slightly off kilter here. But look, we see our pattern really well. It's picked up that extra color, and seems pretty good. I'll crop it for you when we show it at the end. And look at that, it's really crisp. It's probably the best one I've done so far. After all the trial and error, mostly error. So I'm just putting pad and pastel on my little sponge pattern. And these pan pastels are just brilliant, and they will make a nice border. We're just going to put it on white paper this time, just to show the beauty of it. And a few little tricky things you have to go through to make sure that works. Just feathering a little bit between one color and another, and we're good to go. Okay, so in order for this to stick on here, because it's a bit on the floppy side, we're going to put a little bit of retarder on the surface. It only happens when you're doing pan pastel or the if you're using those Ranger ink pads. This way, because it's a floppy kind of format, it's not going to move on us. See, it's not going anywhere now. And that's to the good. Okay, you need a sheet. Okay, and then use your fingers or a wooden spoon. The wooden spoon is a little bit better than the Baron in this case, because it really pushes that foam down. And because we've put that medium underneath our retarder, it's not flopping around under there. You learn little tricks as you go along, mostly through trial and error. And then have a peek to see that it printed nicely. And if it's any area that you've missed, you could just put it back. And it was the bottom that was giving us a little bit of grief, but I think we've got it under control. And because we were using a matte medium surface here, it may take a little bit of drying time, which is another reason to use your heavier duty papers. A good drawing paper, cardstock, tag, whatever is a little bit on the heavier side. Printmaking paper, of course. So now we'll see. So we're going to leave this about 10-15 minutes, and then we'll do the big reveal. And fingers crossed it's going to work. Okay, sometimes it's just better to peel up from, to peel the gel plate from the work, so. Okay, right. Okay, so here it is with pastel, and not a bad result. It's a little bit more obscure. Definitely, you're going to have to go over, with multimedia to bring out the pattern, but it's far more subtle. So this is a subtle way of going about it. All right, so we'll put that in here. So just to recap, so the point of the exercise was to reuse your stencils and using some craft foam, which is reasonable, creating a pattern, making a border out of it, and then using either acrylic paint or pastel. And of course, you can do Ranger inks or any of that, those ink pad inks. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did doing it and all the trials and errors doing all this, but I think the effort was well worth it, and I will be working some more with these. So look out for some future videos, maybe on some more border treatments. So anyway, take care of yourselves and your families and be kind to one another. Bye for now.